Okay, let's look at how to find the surface area and volume of pyramids. So remember back from the warm-up, you have those parts of a pyramid that you have to think about that are a little different from the prisms and cylinders. So we have to take into consideration our slant height here. So the formula for lateral area, remember lateral is the area without the base. So if we look at the example 1, we're talking about the area of those 4 triangles. So the formula for that would be LA for lateral area equals 1/2 capital P is perimeter of the base times slant height. So perimeter of the base times slant height, cut it in half. Total area, remember you're going to bring your lateral down just like we did with prisms and cylinders, and then we're going to add the area of the base. So putting it all together, remember surface area is the area on the outside. So if we were going to paint it or cover it, how much would it take to cover it? Volume is what it holds, and the formula for volume is 1/3 area of the base times height. Just pay attention to what is a slant height and the true height. The true height is in the middle. The slant height is on the outside, the edge of the triangle. So when you are working through these, my advice to start would be to draw your slice like we did in the warm-up. So remember, this is slant height, your height, and your apothem. So looking at the picture here, we know the slant height is 13. We don't know the true height, the one in the middle, and our apothem would be half of that side length there, since it's a square, would be 5. So we could do our a squared plus b squared, which we could say is 5 squared, equals our c squared, which is 13. We subtract 5 squared over, or subtract the 25. And so our a squared equals 144. Remember, 13 squared minus 5 squared, not 13 minus 5. And that means that a is going to equal 12. Okay? Now, this a here and this a here are not the same thing. The one at the top is apothem. The one at the bottom is for Pythagorean theorem. So we know our height is now 12. Okay, so the variables that we're going to work with here are, I'm going to write those over here, perimeter of the base, area of the base, slant height, and height. Well, looking here, we already know the slant height is 13, and we know the height is 12. So now let's find the perimeter. Perimeter of the base, we know the base is right here, this square, and so we could say 10 times 4, which gives us 40. Area of the base, we multiply side times side, 10 squared gives us 100. So now we have all our variables ready to plug them into our formulas. So lateral area is 1/2 times perimeter. So perimeter is 40 times slant height, which is 13. So if we multiply all that, 40 times 13, cut that in half, you would get 260. So that would go here. And we're working, we don't have a unit here, so we would just say unit squared. Total area, remember we bring that lateral down, plus, because we've already done this right here, that's our lateral, plus the area of the base, which we know is 100. And so the total area of that figure is 360 units squared. Formula for volume says 1/3 times area of the base, which is 100, times our height, which is 12. And if we multiply 100 times 12, divide that by 3, you would get 400, and that would be the volume. So take your slice out of your pyramid, make sure you found your height, your slant height, and your apothem, because you'll need them. Maybe not for square so much with the apothem, but the other shapes you will. And then you can find your variables, your P, your B, your L, and your H, and then plug them into your formulas. So let's look at one that's a little bit more challenging with a hexagon base. So we know, let's take our slice out. Slant height, height, and apothem. Okay, the slice that I'm taking out is right here. There's our height, your apothem, and your slant height. It tells me in the instructions that the base edge is 6. The slant height is 14. And that's all we have. Okay, so we can't do Pythagorean theorem yet because we only have one side. We need to take advantage of knowing what we know about hexagons to find our apothem so that we can then find our height. So let's use this hexagon down here. And let's draw our apothem. Let's make our right triangle. We know hexagons, here I'm going to zoom in, hexagons have an angle measure of 60 at all times. We know our base edge is 6, so this would be 3. And if you think about a 30, 60, 90, we know that 3 is across from the 30, and so 3 square root of 3 would be our apothem across from our 60. So now we have our apothem of 3 square root of 3. Now we're ready to plug that in to find our height. So we could say here 3 square root of 3 squared, let me zoom in a little bit, plus our b squared, we don't know the height, equals our 14 squared. When you go to plug this into the calculator, plug it in just like that with the parentheses. Make sure you put those parentheses in, otherwise you will miss it. And so if you plug that in, you would get 27 plus b squared equals 14 squared, which is 196. Subtract that over, b squared would equal 169, and that's a perfect square root, and that would give us 13. So that means our height is 13. Now we have all of our pieces. Okay, remember our 4 variables that we need to find: perimeter of the base, the area of the base, the slant height, and the height. The order you write those in does not matter, you just need all 4 of them. So let's go ahead and knock out those lowercase letters because those are the ones given in our picture. We know our slant height is 14, our height is 13. We can find the perimeter by multiplying 6 times 6 because there's 6 sides, side length of 6, so that would give us 36. Area of the base, remember we're going to do 1/2 times apothem times perimeter. We know our apothem is 3 square root of 3 times 36, our perimeter, divided by 2. 3 times 36 divided by 2 would give us 54 square root of 3. And now we have all of our variables there. So I'm going to put the work for the formulas up in the blanks because I'm running out of room. So lateral area, if we go back up here to the top, the formula for lateral is 1/2 times perimeter of the base times slant height. So 1/2 times our perimeter times our slant height, and that would give us 252, and we're working with centimeters. If we go back up here, total area, bring down your lateral area plus area of the base. So we would bring down the 252 plus, we know our area of the base is 54 square root of 3. Those are not like terms because they both don't have radicals, so that would end up being our total area. Volume, 1/3, area of the base times height, so 1/3, which is the same thing as dividing by 3, times our area of the base times our height. So in your calculator, you would say 54 times 13 divided by 3 and stick that square root of 3 at the end. So you would get 234 square root of 3 centimeters cubed. So again, with these formulas, my biggest piece of advice is find your variables first, and then your formulas are super easy. But if you just start going to the formulas, it's going to be tough to have to find all those missing pieces one at a time.